Welcome to my presentation. This presentation is part of the playlist Indefinite Integrals. In this presentation, we will be talking about the concepts and rules related to indefinite integrals. Let's look at some basic rules of integration. The basic rules are as shown here. The first one is the constant rule of integration. The second one is the constant multiple rule of integration. The third one is the sum rule of integration. The fourth one is difference rule of integration. And then the last one is the power rule of integration. There are many more rules of integration. We will talk about those as we go, but these are the basic rules of integration, and we will explain each one of these rules here. The first rule is the constant rule of integration. If y is equal to integral k dx, where k is a constant function, then the constant rule of integration is stated as follows. That is equal to k times x plus c, where k is a constant function and c is the constant of integration. Applying the integration process to k dx, we can solve any given problem and arrive at the solution. We will solve some example problems related to this rule in my next video presentation. Let's look at the next rule. The next rule is the constant multiple rule of integration. If y is equal to k times f of x dx, that means if a constant is multiplied to another function f of x, as shown here, where k is a constant function and f of x is the function of x, then the constant multiple rule of integration is stated as follows. Integral k times f of x dx. Since k is a constant, we can take it outside of the integration process as shown here, and then write the rest of the equation as shown here. K times integral f of x dx. Applying the integration process to f of x dx, we can solve any given problem and arrive at the solution. We will solve example problems related to this particular rule in my next video presentation. Let's look at the next rule. The next rule is called the sum rule of integration. If y is equal to f of x plus g of x dx, where f of x and g of x are two separate functions, then the sum rule of integration is stated as follows. Integral f of x dx plus integral g of x dx. We can integrate each one of these functions separately as shown here. Applying the integration process to f of x dx and g of x dx, we can solve any given problem and arrive at the solution. We will solve example problems related to the sum rule of integration in my next video presentation. The next rule is called the difference rule of integration. If y equals to f of x minus g of x dx, where f of x and g of x are two separate functions, then the difference rule of integration is stated as follows. Integral f of x dx minus integral g of x dx. Applying the integration process to f of x dx and g of x dx, we can solve any given problem and arrive at the solution. We will solve some example problems related to difference rule of integration in my next video presentation. Let's look at the next rule. The next rule is called the power rule of integration. If y equals to integral x to the power of n dx, where x to the power of n is an exponent function, then the power rule of integration is stated as follows. We can write that as x to the power of n plus 1, the whole thing divided by n plus 1 plus c, where c is a constant of integration. Knowing the value of n, we can solve the given problem and arrive at the solution. We want to make sure that n is not equal to -1. We will solve some example problems related to the power rule of integration in my next video presentation. In my next video presentation, we shall solve problems using the rules of integration. Thank you.